Well, hello and welcome to another wonderful speaker, our top speaker at the Global Virtual Expo, Nancy Ward, financial coach. Hello, Nancy.
Hello, thank you so much for having me today.
It is great to have you here. You're talking about making it work, organizing business expenses on a personal credit card. Now, you're breaking down traditional budgeting, why that doesn't work, and how we can take
Mhm.
control of our finances without feeling restricted. And you have a very fresh, practical approach. Nancy, share your approach with us. Take it away.
Well, thank you so much. I have been a financial coach for a few years because I've been there and I've done that. And I've been in that situation where I've been stressed out about money and trying to figure it all out. And based on that, that's where I came up with my workbooks because so many of us are thinking, yeah, I make good money, everything's going good, but why is it that I still don't have enough money in the bank account? So that's a lot of concern with entrepreneurs these days is that whether they have that 9 to 5 or don't have that 9 to 5, they might be doing this as a side business until they're growing everything along. But what's happening is if we're not paying attention to our personal finances, that stress and that anxiety and everything else that's going into it is starting to affect your business. And that's really, really a concern for people to have. The reason why I talk about not looking at budgeting is because nobody wants to budget. It's like saying, I want to go on a diet, but I don't want to count calories. It's a money diet, right? Budgeting is a money diet, and nobody wants to think about that. It's all in moderation. So, same thing with your money. And what happens as a business owner, mostly a solopreneur, because by the time you get to a point where you've got accounts receivable and accounts payable, you're in a different bracket altogether as far as where your business is, where your finances are. You're taking that draw from your business as a business owner. You've got continual income coming in and you're not stressed out about it. So I'm talking more to that solopreneur who might have a sale here, but maybe another 2 weeks doesn't have anything. And all of a sudden they get some more sales and so forth like that. Besides the fact that as an entrepreneur, that's stressful, trying to have to manage that and your personal expenses can be a challenge. The other thing I wanted to bring up is you mentioned was about people using their personal credit cards for their business. And I see that a lot. And there's completely nothing wrong with that. So don't get me wrong. I like the fact that people start their business because they're again, you might have that 9 to 5 job or you are just, doing some other things where it's no big deal and you want to focus on um you're having your business. So I've been a direct seller for over 28 years. So here in the United States, we have something that's called a 1099. And basically, if you're selling a product, whether Mary Kay, Tupperware, Pampered Chef, any of those big name brands, hopefully across the world, you might have heard of those. Um, the one thing about that is if you here in the United States, if you sell more than $600, you get a 1099. Basically, you get taxed on your income. And with that, working on your taxes in order to figure that all out, that lovely thing called taxes, what happens is that you have that income. But in the United States, our government is allowed to have you take some deductions. So what happens is more than likely the Tupperware lady is doing her parties, maybe buys her samples for every season that comes out, and she's putting it on a personal credit card because it's a side hustle, a small business. It's not a big enough business where, oh yeah, I'm going to go to the bank and I'm going to pay for a dedicated bank account for my business, which is going to cost me $25 a month because that's what banks do. They like to charge more money for business accounts. So that's why I said don't feel guilty that you are putting your business expenses on your personal credit card because we all do it. But the key is when you get time to get ready for taxes, make sure that you get those deductions. You bought the samples for the season, you need to write that off on your taxes. So one other thing you could do is if you have multiple credit cards and they're still personal credit cards, you might consider having just one for your business. Fine, great. I can use it for my samples. I can use it for my website. I can use it for my email, my business cards, anything and everything that you can think of. But what happens when you buy that something on Amazon? Well, you can switch it to your personal card, your business card, or you're still going to put it on your personal card. So what I suggest is when you are working with these expenses, the first thing that you do is once you've made that payment, print out the receipt. And if you're not a paper person, you're like, nope, don't want to deal with it. I don't want more paper. Fine. Save it as a PDF, put it in a file folder on your computer, put it on a Google Drive so it doesn't disappear if all of a sudden something happens to your computer. So that's how you want to keep track. You can keep track of it in a spreadsheet, or you can just have those receipts ready to go. That is the nice part, is that you're able when the time comes for the tax season and you have to reconcile all of that information, you're reconciling your personal expenses that you had on your business because you're not using accounting software that doesn't matter to you, but you want to look at that. So that would be something that would be helpful for you. And even here in the United States, I don't know what kind of software is across the world, but you can also get things like QuickBooks that are for self-employed. So I'm sure that there's plenty of I'm seeing some head nods there. So there's QuickBooks and other software that is able to help you. Even your CRM, your customer relationship management software. Hopefully maybe that's a term that CRM might mean differently in different parts of the country. But what the nice thing about that too is that you can print off those statistics. You sell something on your website, whether it's a course or coaching, things like that. You're able to pull those reports regularly. And what I mean by regularly, monthly would be awesome. But I understand some people don't do that. Maybe doing it quarterly. But having a system, making it repeatable, so then you can run a report and say, oh, for the month of June, I had this much in sales. So then you can keep track of that income because it has to be taxed because we're independent businesses and we're not being paid by a company. Also, a place to go to is looking at different apps such as Venmo, PayPal, Zelle, any of those financial institution apps is another place to do it. I was talking with a client of mine and she's like, I really need to figure out how to get all this business expense together because I've got so much on my personal credit card. And she said, don't get mad at me, but I don't even know how much I made this year. I was like, oh my gosh, really? You don't know how much you made? I said, well, how do you take your customers' money? And she said, oh yeah, Venmo and PayPal. Perfect. Go to them and you can run that report. Because yes, your friend, you went to dinner with your friends and they're like, I didn't bring my wallet today. Can you pay for it? And I'll just Venmo you. Sure, no problem. So take those out. Even printing out that receipt and highlighting it with these are business expenses or deposits, same kind of concept. So that is something to take into consideration. Now, like I said, you don't have to do it weekly, but at least on a monthly basis, that would be good. That would be good. So once you are working on your business expenses, Canva, Zoom, those are subscriptions. What are you paying it monthly? Are you paying it yearly? Those are the things to think about when it comes in, when you pay the bill, print the receipt, tuck it away. I am a paper person. If you haven't figured that out yet, with my journals, of course. But I have different file folders for each of my businesses. So I've got a financial coaching business, I've got my direct sales, I've got an Etsy store, and I also sell in Mercari, and it's kind of like eBay. Don't worry about it. Even the people in the United States go, what Mercari? I haven't heard that before, but it's like an eBay. And got to get rid of the stuff in my house. I mean, that's an easy way to make some extra money and start paying down some of those credit cards if you want. But at the end of the year, then I have all of that information there. I can pull that out. I've already got it tallied up from every single month. And then I can go ahead and put it into TurboTax in order for TurboTax to calculate it, because I like to save money. And so I don't pay for an accountant at this point. If there was something really difficult on my taxes, I probably would talk to an accountant. But at this point, it's really simple for me. I've just got a whole bunch of businesses. Um, so then I can pull those files out and I can look at it. And having that credit card statement, again, you print that off and you can highlight it in order to say, okay, these are for my business. This is for my direct sales business. This is for my financial coaching business. This is for my Etsy store. Having those different colors, if you will help. And if you are completely digital in your credit card apps, I didn't know if you know this, when you go online on your computer, when you go into looking at the activity where you can see the statements or you can see the activity of what transactions have happened over the last statement. In those screens, you're able to download the activity. I didn't know if you knew that. With that, you can save it as a CSV, which is in like a Google Sheet, and then you can pull it into Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel in order to get that information. And the best part about that is if it's your personal card, as long as you're not like gasoline, you're not going to use that as a category. Here in the United States, we're able to track our mileage and then put that onto our taxes. But we don't say, hey, here's, for every 2 months, I'm going to just throw $30 of gasoline onto my taxes. That's not the case. So what's nice about that, when you download all that information, it is a spreadsheet. So you can sort by category, you can sort by place, you can sort by amount, all of those different things, and just get rid of those things such as groceries. Well, you didn't buy any groceries for your business unless you have a receipt that said, hey, I'm having an open house for my business, or I'm going to an event and I'm going to bring a dish and I made the food at home. And then, there's all these small little situations, but again, some of those major categories are not going to go into your taxes. So take advantage of that too, that if you don't want to do the highlighting, and I totally understand, but you can pull it out, all that data into a spreadsheet, even at the end of the year if you really wanted to. But like I said, if you keep up with it monthly, then first of all, you know the heartbeat of your business. And we just heard our last speaker was talking about abundance and having everything work in your business. Wouldn't it be nice to know on a monthly basis? We all sit there and say, hey, how much did we make this month? How much in sales did we get this month? We're all so excited about that. But nobody says, how much did I spend this month? Well, maybe me, because I'm the financial coach. But that's the funny thing, is that, do you know the heartbeat of your business? We all talked about cash flow. How much is coming in? How much is going? And having that in your budget, if you will. Let's mention Zoom, because we're on a Zoom call right now. My bill is $120 a year. Other people pay it $12, $15 a month. So I know that at a certain month of the year, I'm going to get hit on my credit card with that $120 bill, which is probably going to go up because everything's going up these days. But keeping track of that is so important to go, okay, that's going to go into my expenses for the year. But when you're doing a yearly budget for yourself in business, I know I said the B word, but we're talking more on business than we are personal, because sometimes we can resist ourselves from not spending too much in our business. But you can take that amount and say, okay, approximately, it's going to cost me approximately every single month $15 a month for my Zoom membership. So again, it gives you awareness of your numbers. When you go buy toner, you're not going to buy that on a monthly basis. You'll probably buy it every 6 months to a year, depending on how much you print. Those are the ways that you want to keep track of everything, because you have those expenses that come up. Now, when you're planning for taxes, this is very comparable to when you get paid at your 9 to 5 job, or even with with your entrepreneurship. You need to set aside money for taxes, because since your company is not taking, you work for a big company, they're going to take out those taxes for you and submit it to your government. When you're an entrepreneur, that doesn't happen. So just like if you every single time you get paid, you're going to take 10%, $10, whatever the case may be, and put it into a savings account for you personally. You're working that 9 to 5, you're working that, small business. Every 2 weeks, you're getting that paycheck at your big job. You put $25 into a savings account for an emergency fund or a family vacation or things like that. You need to do just the same action for being an entrepreneur. Set aside 10, 15, 20%, whatever comes up. And how do you know that number? Look at last year's taxes. That will help you determine, oh, I had to pay $2,000 in taxes last year because I made the money and I had the deductions, but the government still wants their part. They want part of my income, and it is what it is. We can't do anything about it. So if every single time you do an owner's draw, or at the end of the month, you say, hey, I sold $3,000 worth of products, take 10% and put it into a separate bank account, or tuck it away somehow in your management system in order to have that money. So when that bill comes and you need to pay that $2,000 or $3,000 in taxes, and you're going, oh my gosh, what do I do? Well, if you saved all the way through the year, you've got it taken care of. Just like all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I got to get 4 new tires. That's going to cost me $1,000. Well, if you save money into an emergency fund, you pull it out of there so you don't have to put it on your credit card. Same concept. Pay yourself first. That is really, really important. If you are expecting a large bill, consider paying quarterly taxes. Now, here in the United States, if you get to a certain threshold, that is required, that you have to send in estimated taxes every quarter. And that's where that savings is going to come into play. So you can, if you're taking it out of your business to put it away for your business taxes, you're not taking it out of your personal funds. So that's one less thing to worry about when you are mixing your business and your personal. You definitely want to keep track of your income so there's no surprises. So as you're working your business, you know that you're making the same amount of money every single month or more money every single month. Having that estimate of how much are you selling, how much are you making, because what's going to happen, you say, okay, in July I'm going to have a huge launch and I'm going to launch my new program and it's going to be X amount of dollars, and I expect to have, I'm going to do all this marketing runway, and I'm going to have this great coaching program, and I'm going to have 50 people join my coaching program. All of a sudden you have all this money. What are you going to do with it? You've got to be smart about it, because if that's what's going to help you for the rest of the year as far as your income for your personal expenses to pay yourself, or are you going to take some of that and invest it back into your business? Or is that would say, hey, you know what? Now is the time I'm going to upgrade my CRM. I've been doing pretty well, but now I've got too many people. I've got to hire a VA. I've got to put all of these things back into my system, and I got to up it because, a lot of like I have MailerLite. As soon as I hit over 1,500 or 1,000, I can't remember what it was, they started charging me more money to send out emails. As you get bigger, you have bigger expenses. Wait a minute. Doesn't that sound like kids? When they get bigger, they have bigger expenses. No more kids meals. It's full adult meals and expensive. But definitely those those are some things that are really important. And I know that Sigrid wanted me to talk about my two financial journals that are really important because, as I mentioned, having your personal finances in order is really helpful. It helps with your relationship with whomever's in your house. And if it's just your cat, well, that's okay. Sorry. Um, but having a solid foundation in your business, just like a solid foundation in your bank account, is so important. And how I developed these is there was a point right after my divorce. I said, "Oh my gosh, what in the world did I just do?" I said, "Let me have the house." Oh my gosh, I didn't realize how much a house costs when you have one income ish. And I was a stay at home mom for 10 years. So now you're telling me I got to go find a job that's going to pay me enough money, and I got to deal with the small kids that are still in school and latchkey and things like that. And my first job out of my divorce was $9 an hour. That that's not going to pay the bills. And there were many nights that I just stressed out and said, how am I going to do this? It, I can pay for this, but what happens when, something happens to the house or the water heater goes and I got to, a few $1,000s to repair that. So as a numbers person, this is obviously way before I decided to become a financial coach, I sat down and I just wrote down my numbers. I told you before, I don't like to budget. Budgeting is just hard for me. And on a side note, I've got a son that has allergies. So I have to buy specialty milk, basically no nuts and no milk, no cow in the milk. So oat milk, that's about what I can get for him. But you know that those things are expensive. I have no choice. I can't say, oh, I'm only going to spend $2 for milk. I have no choice. But I have a choice to say, I don't need another pair of shoes because you can only wear one pair of shoes at a time. I don't need another shirt. I don't need another pair of pants. I don't need that. I might need, to get new clothes for the kids because they're growing out of them, but I don't need anything for myself. So what I realized is I had to sit down and say, what needs to come out of my bank account every single month? I know what I'm getting with support from my ex. I know what I'm getting from my job, from my side business. How much do I need? And just having that step on the scale moment was so important because there's no way I had to have cash in my bank account in order to pay my mortgage. I had to have cash in my bank account in order to pay for my car payment. Those are the things that I had to have. And then where I live, my electric bill, they'll charge me an extra 5% if I use a credit card. I'm like, well, heck no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to have it taken out of my bank account. But you also have to look at that too and say, there's only so much money that is left after those major expenses. So that's what helped me just develop the money snapshot is because it it makes you stop. It makes you look at your numbers. Whether you say, "Oh, I'm doing okay," or you're not doing okay, it makes you stop, look at the numbers, and go, "Okay, this is a snapshot of where my finances are at this single moment. Here's my credit score." And the credit score is going to determine how much I can borrow. Or in some places here too, is determines my car insurance. It is relatable because if you're not responsible with your money, you might not be responsible with your car and with driving and things like that. So as I was working through it over the years, things came up. I had to get braces for my child. I had to a repair in my house, things like that. I took advantage of 0% promotional offers at different places. But again, I needed to track it because if I didn't pay it off at the end of that 6 months, I had to pay interest from day one. And I was like, I did that when I was single. Before I got married, I had credit card debt. I am not paying interest again because that is what keeps my credit card just keeps going up and going up, is because if you don't get it paid off, you're basically tipping yourself 20-30% every single month. So how did I figure out where I was spending without budgeting? I had to look at my categories. How much am I spending on groceries? How much am I spending on entertainment, on gasoline, on all of these different things? And that's where the financial journal really comes into play. And this just came out in May, and I have my journal. I'm writing in. It's like, okay, let's go back to January and how much did I spend and what was my category? And at first when I was working on this, I looked at how much I had done for the whole year, because my credit card will tell me how much I spent and what categories and what percentage. And I looked at 2023 versus 2024, and I was wowed. My entertainment budget, my spending went from here down to here. Why? Because my daughter graduated high school and we stopped going to concerts. Life happens. And I had one of my clients, she's like, oh my gosh, I'm spending so much on drive-through. I'm like, you have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old. They want McDonald's Happy Meals. You're in the drive-through mom stage. It's okay. It's okay. But no matter what, whether it's your personal finances or your business finances, awareness. Awareness is what these things do for you. And it depends on how much of a rabbit hole you want to go down. You want to really know about your finances and really how to help yourself, this is going to help you. It actually comes with a video series as well. So then, small little clips, 3 to 5 minutes a piece, just saying, hey, this is the purpose of this section. This is what I want you to get out of it. If you have any questions, let me know. Because having a system is so important. And what I love about it being so physical is the fact you can touch it, you can feel it, and you can write things down. Grab a page here. And when you write it down, you see it in person. And the best part is that you don't have to worry about this thing distracting you while you're trying to figure out this. You're grabbing the information, you're putting it down on the piece of paper. And we remember how we talked about that other person in your household? You could sit there and say, let's have a conversation about this. We need to discuss it. We need to figure out what's going on with our finances. You can take it to bed with you if you really want to. Have a conversation. Talk about, seriously. But the point is that it's offline. It's not a spreadsheet, because you can go get your spreadsheet on Etsy or Google and have your budget. This is like a report. So you think about your business. When you go to your accountant, they're going to give you monthly reports of income and expenses. Same thing, but on a personal level. Take some small steps. They're going to give you some big results. Start small, even if it's just, like I said, taking that $10 a week or whatever, putting it away. Start small, celebrate your wins, take your hand like this and go like that. And if you mess up one week, it's just like going to a graduation party and eating cake and chicken wings and pizza and all this other stuff. Okay, that just means tomorrow you take a longer walk, or you just say, okay, that was great. We celebrated. Back to my diet, back to my exercise, back to less spending. And I wish you the best of luck, because money can be challenging, but you got a system, it works so much better for you.
That is wonderful, Nancy. Thank you so much for all of those details and sharing your personal story in it as well. Yes, I'm very keen for you to share about the Money Snapshot book that you have in the Financial Journal, because what really stood out is know what you do and know what you have from knowing what you do, which is really what you are sharing with us there. So thank you very much for your talk on that one, Nancy Ward, financial coach, enlightening us, and available from her, the Money Snapshot and the Financial Journey. Thanks, Nancy.
Thank you.